Francisco, if you want to. There you go. All righty. Well, thank you everybody for coming to the Monroe Street Bikeway Study First Community Workshop. I'm going to let Ralph Garcia from the city give a few words of opening first. Ralph.
Thank you, Ashley. Good evening, everyone. This is the Monroe Street Bikeway Study Community Meeting number 1. I am Ralph Garcia, Senior Civil Engineer with the City of Santa Clara. We have Ashley Hare with Alta Planning and Design, who will take you through the project presentation. So Ashley, please go ahead.
Great, thanks, Ralph. So next slide. So again, thank you for being here. As I mentioned, this meeting is being recorded and it's going to be posted later on the project website. If you can't stay the whole time, there's another way to get in touch with us and connect with the project. A few options there. The website, you see the URL, it's santaclaraca.gov/bikeped projects. This is one of 4 projects that are underway, so you'll need to go to the Monroe Street link in order to get information about this project specifically, but you can learn about the other projects at that URL as well. We also have a voicemail phone number where you can call and leave comments or thoughts on the project. That number's there on the screen as well. It is 408-320-7060. And we have a project email address where you can also send your thoughts. That is monroestudy@altago.com. We have the first of several surveys available and accessible on the project website. So please feel free to give your comments there as well. We'd love to have your thoughts and insight on the project now and as it moves forward. So next slide. Our agenda for this evening's workshop, we're going to start with some brief introductions. I want to talk through Zoom and Mentimeter logistics. Mentimeter is an interactive survey tool that we're going to be using during the course of this meeting. Talk a little about the project purpose and the study area as it is today, what our work plan is for the project. We want to hear about your experiences and vision for the future of the corridor. We're going to have a question and answer session towards the end, and then we'll talk about our next steps for the project. Next slide. So some brief introductions. You've met Ralph. He's the project manager for the city. He will also be joined by Carol Shariat, Principal Transportation Planner, and Mike Liu, who is the Assistant Public Works Director. Alta Planning and Design is the consultant that is helping the city with this project. Some key players on our side are Jeff Knowles, myself, Ashley Hare, and Ben Frazier, who is our lead planner for the project. Next slide. So a quick overview of Zoom in case there's some elements here that you're not familiar with. Down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a participants button. That window allows you to change your name. If it's showing up as something sort of cryptic, you can change that to show your name, and a first initial and last name is totally fine, or vice versa. Next slide. Question and answer. This is a spot where you can leave us questions as the presentation moves forward. We will be answering those as we come to them, and then also during the Q&A session as well. And then lastly, when we get to the Q&A session, you'll see another little icon pop up at the bottom that is the raise hand feature. So if you would like to ask a question vocally, you can raise your hand and we will come to you and unmute you so you can ask that question. So with that, we will move into the Mentimeter logistics. So Mentimeter, you may have used this before. It's an interactive tool. We're going to be asking a series of questions during this workshop to get some feedback from you on what you'd like to see and various elements of the project. So in order to access that, if you can pull up either your web browser or your smartphone, you can type in this URL here, the www.menti.com. And it's going to ask you for a meeting code, and it's that 8-digit number that you see there on the screen. So that is 6900 3140. And so give folks a few minutes to get logged into Mentimeter using that URL and that 8-digit code. And if you can keep this up during the course of the meeting, we've got about 10 projects throughout the workshop that we'll be using Mentimeter for. So here's the first of our questions. This is just a tester to make sure that it's working for you. And this first question is, where do you live? And so the options are on Monroe Street, within a few blocks of Monroe Street, another part of Santa Clara, a neighboring city, and then just somewhere else outside the area. So we've got one person joining who lives on Monroe Street, one who lives within a few blocks, and then 3 folks from other parts of Santa Clara. So that's great. Next question. How did you hear about today's meeting? So we sent out postcards a few days ago. There's also the city's website that had information about the meeting. And you may have heard about it through social media or an email list. And then there's a category for other. Okay, so we've got one person who heard about it from the postcard, 3 heard about it from social media or the email list, and 1 person heard about it in another way. Great, so I'm glad Mentimeter is working and that we're getting that feedback. All right, so moving into the rest of the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the study area today. What is the study area? Why are we looking at it? So next slide. So the project area is Monroe Street. Ooh, back up. The project area is Monroe Street between the Lawrence Expressway and the San Tomas Expressway. Next slide. It's a 1.7 mile east-west segment that is generally 4 to 5 lanes in width. The posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. There are currently sharrows or shared lane markings in front of Wilcox High School and bike lanes between Chromite Drive and San Tomas Expressway. And the street itself is primarily fronted by houses and the high school. So next slide. So why are we studying Monroe Street? Firstly, it was included in the city's general plan and the county's bicycle plan. It was included in the city's 2018 bike plan update as a priority project. We are looking to implement the city's complete streets policy, help achieve goals of the city's climate action plan, and importantly, enhance safety and comfort for all street users. Next slide. So what is the plan process as part of this project? Phase 1 is where we are now. We just kicked off a few weeks ago. So we are now in the information gathering and existing conditions analysis. So the public engagement is a key part of that. We want to hear from you and what you'd like to see, where you think are problem areas, what are some challenging issues that you deal with on the street, what do you like well, what do you think is working great? And once we collect that data, we're also collecting a bunch of traffic data, parking data, and so forth. We'll be moving into phase 2 to develop and share roadway concepts. So this is looking at what the roadway could be, what some of those cross sections might look like, and we'll be coming back with that information to get your feedback late summer, early fall. So keep an eye out for those meetings as you'll get notifications about those in the future. From there, we'll be reviewing technical analysis, including some traffic modeling and revising the concepts accordingly. And from there, we move into phase 4, which is presenting this to City Council for their review and consideration. So next slide. So the project goals, broadly speaking, are to install Class 2B buffered bike lanes. And so these are the bike lanes that you've probably seen in other areas where it's the striped bike lane, and then there is typically a hatched buffer that is painted between the bike lane and the adjacent travel lanes to help increase the separation space between bicyclists and adjacent traffic. We're looking to improve safety for people who are biking on the corridor, close gaps and expand the city's bike network, and improve safe routes to school for Wilcox High School students and staff and teachers and others who may be going to the high school site. Our project schedule, again, we're here in the beginning. We just kicked off a few weeks ago. We're in phase 1 with the community workshops and that information gathering that I mentioned. So from here over the summer, we're going to be looking at the data that we've collected, developing those concepts, bringing those back to you and the public and to the BPAC later in the late summer and into the fall. So we'll be getting more feedback then. We're going to having more pop-up events and community outreach opportunities. From there, we'll move into phase 3, where we are refining those concepts, getting more a review period on the public draft, and then lastly, moving into city council review and consideration. So that should wrap up next summer. So again, we are here at the beginning part of this project. So we're glad you're here and we hope you stay involved with the project as we go into the next stages. So the plan process, it's important to know that this project is funded by VTA's Measure B in order to focus on improving bicycle connections. We are looking to improve the comfort and safety of all roadway users. As part of doing that, we'll be doing analyses on traffic, parking, and collisions, collecting community input through a variety of forums and a number of public meetings, moving to that city council approval, ideally, and then from there, depending on city council's decision, into what the next steps may be for the project. So here's our next Mentimeter question. So come back to the browser that you had this open in. And the question, this is an open-ended short response. What are your goals for Monroe Street? And you can answer more than once on this. So as we get responses, we'll see them pop up on the screen here. Hopefully. Ben, are we getting comments? There we go. Okay, just a little slow. Okay, so some of the responses here are safety for all users, bicycle connectivity, bike lanes throughout left turn pockets, build bike friendly and safe to encourage more bikes. Great. Excellent. Thanks for all that. So our planned approach for the project, we will be considering complete streets elements to guide the design. Again, making sure that we are looking at how all the parts fit together. And bikeway improvements aiming to promote safety, encourage multiple modes of transportation, encouraging physical activity and giving folks more options to bike, cleaner air by reducing vehicular trips, and a more connected bikeway network throughout the city and into adjacent jurisdictions. So as part of the plan development, we will be developing recommendations based on public input and the traffic and parking analyses that we will be conducting. If bicycle facilities are recommended, we're going to be evaluating whether one approach may be to remove a travel lane in each direction or to remove on-street parking. And you can see one example here on the right of what this could look like potentially. This is an example from Prune Ridge, where it went from 4 lanes with on-street parking to 3 lanes with bike lanes and preserving the on-street parking. So as part of this plan, we will be seeing if this is a similar treatment that we would want to use or if there are some other options. Next slide. So the plan approach, The plan at the end of all of this process will present to council the summation of the community input, the technical analyses, including the traffic, parking, simulation modeling, and crash analysis, the corridor improvement recommendations that meet the goals of the plan, and then City Council will decide if and how the plan moves forward from that point. It's important to know there is no funding dedicated to design or construction, building of any of this at this point. So our project work plan, again, we're in the information gathering phase now. We'll be looking at travel analysis, developing concept designs, analyzing the impacts of those, and then from there, refining those concepts for plan development and final recommendations. So next, we've got a series of Mentimeter questions to get more information about your experiences and vision for the future of the corridor. So poll question number 4, what should Monroe Street's priorities be? And this is a ranking question. So the options are safety and traffic calming, walking, bicycling, parking, and traffic congestion. So this question is asking you to rank those from most to least important. What should be the priorities on Monroe Street? All right, so we've got in first place safety and traffic calming, and then barely eking out in second place is walking. It's pretty well tied with bicycling. Fourth place is traffic congestion, and the least important of these 5 as ranked here. Oh, bicycling just ran up to the top. And then parking is at the bottom of that stack. So, okay, bicycling number 1, followed by safety and traffic calming, followed by walking. Great. Okay, next question. Number 5. Do you currently bike on Monroe Street? And the options here are, yes, I bike on Monroe Street in the street on the road. Yes, I bike on Monroe Street, but on the sidewalk. Sometimes I bike on Monroe Street, so maybe you bike it on the weekends, it feels less chaotic, or maybe during the week it feels less chaotic, and so you do sometimes. And then lastly, no, I do not bike on Monroe Street. All right, so we've got 5 responses from folks who do bike on Monroe Street in the road, on the street, and then 1 person who does not currently bike on Monroe Street. Great, thank you. Question number 6. This is another short response. And so please describe your experiences traveling, whether it's walking, biking, rolling on skates, on a scooter, in a wheelchair, or driving on Monroe Street. And again, you can provide multiple responses here if you'd like. If you're not able to use the Mentimeter tool, feel free to put these answers in the Q&A down at the bottom. Okay, so some of the responses coming in is that cycling is generally safe, but sometimes cars pass too close or too fast. Fast traffic, no space for bikes. I've driven many times, but don't bike because it isn't safe. I would bike if it was made safe. Right-hand lane rather tight, where no bike lane. Turning northbound is rather hairy. The bike lanes from downtown to Chromite are acceptable, but would be better if buffered. From Chromite to Lawrence, it is awful. It's a bit scary to bike on the street. Most drivers travel at unsafe speeds in excess of 35 miles an hour, especially around those turns. Okay. Great.
And then reading one from the Q&A box. I bike on Monroe, but between San Tomas and Lawrence, I strongly prefer to use other routes when available.
Okay. Great. Oh, it looks like we've got 2 more responses on this number 6 question. Drivers still don't know what to do about the trail intersection, although the new paint helps a little. Turning into the trail can be better. Left turns are very dangerous since you need to sit still in what cars use as the fast lane. Okay, great. That's all excellent feedback. So thanks very much.
And one more from the Q&A box. I
Okay.
prefer cycling on Agate Street over Monroe as it is quieter and safer.
Okay, good to know. All right, so let's go on to poll question number 7. This is another short response question. Again, you can have multiple responses. And the question is, which intersections are difficult to cross? So we've got to vote for San Tomas. We've got to vote for San Tomas Trail Crossing. Another vote for San Tomas Trail intersection. Drivers continuously run the red light there. None for me. No challenges there. Okay. Intersection at the trail crossing, cars run red lights many times. San Tomas Trail Crossing. Okay, so we've got 4 votes for the trail crossing. The left onto Calabasas is very dangerous. Okay. All right, great. Thanks. We can focus in more on those locations as part of the analysis. Poll question number 8, another short response. What destinations do you currently access along or via Monroe Street? And this could be something general, or it could be specific, like a particular business or park or what have you. Okay, so the San Tomas Creek Trail. Monticello apartment complex and the trail. Sunnyvale, Mountain View, and SCU. Everything from the shopping center at Monroe and Lawrence to downtown. The San Tomas Trail, the high school. Reed and Evelyn into Sunnyvale and Mountain View. Okay, great. Okay, that trail crossing is getting a lot of attention tonight. Okay, let's move on to number 9. Another short response. What is your vision for bicycle facilities on Monroe? At least class 2 left turn pockets for bikes onto the trail. Safe bike lanes all the way to the Sunnyvale border with no gaps. Buffered bike lanes at a minimum, protected bike lanes, protected intersections would be good things to examine. Traffic calming. Great. Okay, that's great information. And then we can go to our last.
One more coming in
Oh.
from the QA box, dedicated lanes, the entire route on Monroe, at the very least enforcement of safe driver speed.
Okay, that's a good addition. All right, and then our last of our poll questions with Mentimeter is another short response. What bicycle facility qualities would encourage you to bike or bike more frequently? Got an answer for safe bike lanes, slower traffic, I will bike regardless, dedicated bike lanes, safe driver travel speed, lanes and left turn pockets, calmed traffic, buffered bike lanes, room to avoid parked car doors. Another vote for buffered bike lanes. Okay, great. Okay. Well, that's the end of our Mentimeter questions. We're going to move into the question and answer session. And you will see at the bottom a hand raise option pop up that you can click on. So you can ask questions that way. You can also use the Q&A box as we've been using through the presentation so far. And then also what you see here on the right of the screen is Mentimeter still is up and you can submit questions. It'll fill in where it says no questions from the audience there if someone chooses to submit a question this way. So with that said, if anyone would like to raise their hand with questions, we can take those. Again, we've got a few other options there if you're more comfortable typing it out. If you've got real puzzler questions, I can hand things off to Ralph if needed.
We got one coming in from the Q&A box.
Okay.
Just a note from one of the BPAC members was at the site visit this afternoon. She'll be sending in a couple of spots where drivers veered into the bike lane. So just one of the things that we can look out for is just, how drivers interact in the bike when they're around the school campus.
Okay, great.
Got another question coming in. Has or will the consultant team and city staff done a bike ride in Monroe to see firsthand from a cyclist perspective the conditions on the road? So maybe, I don't know, this could be an opportunity for you to talk about the site visit that happened today, Ralph, maybe since you were there.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Yeah, so we did a site visit today. We asked for some volunteers from our design team as well as some BPAC members. So we came out right at the dismissal time for Wilcox High School. So we observed all kinds of traffic, vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic, and bicyclists as they rode through Monroe Street. So we made observations on a map through different areas that were stationed. And we made some notes observing how bicyclists interacted with vehicles and vice versa. So we have all those notes as mentioned earlier. So Alta's taking that and we're looking through those comments and our observations as well.
Thank you, Ralph. And it looks like we have one coming in through Mentimeter. How will traffic be slowed to accommodate for pedestrians and bicyclists?
So we'll be looking at a variety of traffic calming measures where it makes sense. We haven't determined yet what those are going to be, but that is part of the project. We know that speeds are a concern out here, and we want to do what we can to encourage people to comply with the posted speed limits. So that may be some lane narrowing or high visibility crosswalks. Remains to be seen what kind of measures are going to be the best fit for this corridor. Again, we're at the very beginning of the process.
And we have a couple of observations coming in from the Q&A box. The first one, towards San Tomas, the traffic is much faster than it is in front of the school. The street is wider or feels wider because of less parking maybe, and people are hurrying to make lights and turn on and off the expressway. All the traffic funnels past the creek crossing, and it's a dangerous mix.
Great, thanks for that comment.
And then another one is cars veer into the bike lane at the road curving before Cromite while going westbound. Also, merging into the shared lane at Cromite from the bike lane is sometimes dicey due to the cars who are also trying to get through there at the same time.
Okay. Good to know.
Looks like we have another question on Mentimeter.
Okay.
I guess it's an explanation for one of the earlier questions, but I'm asking because people speed frequently on Monroe, and we've witnessed bicyclists getting hit as well as dogs, and it's hard to cross the street at peak times.
Yeah, that's definitely something we will be looking at, is bringing those speeds down. We know the curvature is a problem as well, so we'll be looking at all of that. Okay, well, we can continue to take more questions as we move through the tail end of the presentation. Again, we have those variety of ways to get in touch with the project team. So we'll go back over those here towards the end of the slide deck. So, oh, we got another Q&A question popping up.
Okay, yep. I watched a couple of bicyclists turn left across Monroe, not at lights. Their moves weren't what I'd call legal, but they worked. We need to build something that accommodates what people really do and that encourages safe behaviors.
Okay, thanks for that input. Okay, so our next steps, sorry, I'm switching screens here. Our next steps will be doing the corridor analysis this spring and into the summer, looking at intersection delay and building a full traffic model of the corridor, doing a parking study to see what parking occupancy is throughout the corridor and along the side streets. This spring and into the summer, we will be using that analysis and the data to develop conceptual design options, whether it affects parking or traffic lane configurations. We will be evaluating that. And then into the late summer and beginning of the fall, we'll be moving into round 2 of the community workshops and pop-up events. Next slide. So we have a follow-up of this presentation. It will be identical. You don't need to attend both, but if you've got friends or neighbors who may have missed this meeting and would be interested to learn more, this Saturday at 1:30 p.m. we will have another virtual workshop. We have the Bike to Work pop-up event tomorrow morning. That will be at the intersection of the San Tomas Creek Trail and Agnew. Ben, among some others, folks from our staff and the city, will be out there to say hello. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a community survey, the first of several, that is live now on the project website. So you can go there and provide your input. We'd love to get your thoughts, especially this early in the process. It really will set things out on the right track. So please take a chance to fill out that survey. So next slide. So again, just to revisit our schedule, we're here. This is the beginning of the project. So thank you for getting involved at this early stage. We'll be moving through some analysis this summer into phase 2. And so look for more notifications and information about upcoming community workshops and other events as we get into the fall. We'll be bringing some of those concept designs to you to get your feedback and thoughts on those. Next slide. So lastly, again, some ways to stay involved. The URL for the project website is santaclaracA.gov/bikeped projects. And again, this is one of 4 projects that are currently ongoing. So once you get to that URL, there will be a link there for Monroe Street. We have a project voicemail set up where you can call in, leave your thoughts, leave us a voicemail, and that will all be tracked. That number is 408-320-7060. Our project email is monroestudy@altago.com. You can write down your thoughts and shoot us an email using that option. Again, the survey, you can access that using the project website, that URL up top. And then please, we're really glad you're here tonight, and please join us in the future for the upcoming community meetings and events for the project. So with that, we're happy to stick around and take some more questions if there are those. And if not, again, thank you for coming, and we appreciate you being here.
Doesn't look like any more questions. Looks like everything was answered, though. Great job, everyone.
Yeah, if there's no more questions, I think we can wrap it up. And oh, there's something popped up.
One came in. Let's see. To be honest, it is safer for cyclists on Agate Drive through Butcher Park, then onto Cortez, and then on the South Drive, and then taking the sidewalk into the trail. Maybe making that infrastructure is better for cyclists in the long run. So that's a potential alternative route that some people maybe currently use to avoid Monroe. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if there's no other questions or comments, I think that's a wrap for this workshop. So again, thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time.